The day the line held at Gettysburg. The ground shook before the soldiers even saw them. Private Elijah Turner tightened his grip on his rifle as a distant thunder rolled across the Pennsylvania hills, not from the sky, but from thousands of marching boots and artillery wheels grinding toward them. "Here they come," someone whispered. Elijah swallowed hard, because this wasn't a rumor anymore. This was the moment. July 2nd, 1863. Battle of Gettysburg. The sun beat down on Cemetery Ridge, but the air felt cold. Union soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder. A thin blue line stretched across their eyes. Sweat ran down Elijah's neck, but his hands felt dry, too dry. Like all the fear had drained everything else away. He was just a farm boy from Ohio. He wasn't supposed to be here. Not like this. Just weeks earlier, Elijah had been home, fixing fence posts with his father. "You hear about the fighting back east?" his father had asked. Elijah nodded. "You thinking of going?" A long pause. Then Elijah had said quietly, "If I don't, someone else's son has to." His father didn't argue. He just placed a hand on Elijah's shoulder and said, "Then go knowing who you stand for and who stand with you." Now, standing on that ridge, Elijah wasn't sure he felt anyone standing with him, except the men beside him. And even they looked just as unsure. The first cannon blast tore through the air like judgment. Boom. The ground jumped. Smoke billowed. Men flinched instinctively. Then came another, and another. "Hold the line," an officer shouted. The Confederate advance moved like a storm, gray lines emerging through smoke and heat, rifles glinting in the sun. They weren't slowing down. They weren't hesitating. They were coming straight for them. Elijah's heart pounded, so loud he could barely hear the commands. "Ready." His hands trembled. "Aim." He raised his rifle. The line ahead blurred. "Fire." The world exploded into chaos. Gunfire cracked. Smoke choked the air. Men shouted, fell, rose, and fought again. Elijah fired, reloaded, fired again, his movements mechanical, driven more by survival than thought. But fear didn't leave. It pressed harder, closer. A man beside him went down. Elijah flinched, stepping back instinctively. For a moment, he almost ran. Then he remembered his father's words. "Who stands with you?" Elijah closed his eyes for just a second. "Lord, I don't feel brave," he whispered. "But I'm still here." He stepped forward again. The line wavered. Not broken, but bending. The Confederate push was relentless. Closer now. Too close. "Fix bayonets," came the order. Steel met steel with a sharp, final sound. Elijah's breath caught. This wasn't just firing from a distance anymore. This was about to become something else. The enemy charged, yelling, driving forward, and the Union line held. Elijah braced himself as the clash came. A blur of motion, shouts, the ringing of metal. He didn't think. He acted. Minutes stretched into something that felt like hours. But slowly, the momentum shifted. The charge faltered. The gray line broke. And then, they began to fall back. Silence didn't come right away. It crept in slowly, replacing the chaos piece by piece. Elijah stood there, chest heaving, hands shaking, barely able to process what had just happened. They had held. Against everything, they had held. Later, as the sun dipped low, Elijah sat on the ridge, staring out over the battlefield. The cost was everywhere. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt humbled. A fellow soldier sat beside him. "You stayed," the man said. Elijah nodded slowly. "I almost didn't." The man gave a small smile. "Yeah, me too." Elijah looked out over the field again. "I was scared the whole time," he admitted. The soldier chuckled softly. "That's how you know it mattered." Elijah thought about that. Then he thought about something else. Not how strong he had been, but how he hadn't been alone. Because somewhere between the fear and the fight, he had found the strength to stand. Not because fear left him, but because something deeper held him there. Years later, Elijah would return home to that same fence line, same land, same sky, but he would never forget that ridge. Because that was the day he learned. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's standing your ground when everything in you says run. And sometimes, that's what changes history. Commentary note: this story reflects the biblical principle that courage comes not from the absence of fear, but from trusting God in the midst of it. Psalm 27 verse 1. Elijah's decision to stand firm shows that faith often looks like obedience under pressure. It also highlights American values of sacrifice, duty, and perseverance in the face of overwhelming odds. Historical note: this story is a fictional narrative set during the real Battle of Gettysburg in July 1863, one of the most pivotal battles of the American Civil War. Union forces successfully held key defensive positions, such as Cemetery Ridge, against Confederate assaults. While the characters and specific moments are dramatized, the broader events and conditions reflect historical reality.